Hi everyone, I love Japanese ramen, and today I am going to be comparing this Ichiran ramen noodles that you can make at home with another popular brand. Now I have been to Japan before and I have tried the noodles at the restaurants, which are very delicious. And I like how you can adjust the chewiness of the noodles with the cooking time and also the spiciness as well with the chili packet that is provided. It comes in a box of 5 individual servings, and I purchased this when I was in Hong Kong a couple of months ago. So it turned out to be about $12 Canadian for each individual package, so not cheap at all. The other brand I'm going to be cooking today is this one from Hong Kong. The brand is a Japanese brand, but it's made in Hong Kong, and it's the Nissin brand. The flavor is miso and pork bone broth flavor. So the Ichiran brand is very popular in Japan and well known overseas as well. They have this home version where you can cook at home, and it comes with the package of the famous pork bone broth soup, as well as a packet of the chili flakes. The noodles, as you can see, are fairly similar between the two different brands. They are both the curly type. This Nissin brand comes with this soup base as well as a seasoning sauce. And I've just put the noodles side by side there. Just to let you know, this is an insert. There are different types of products that you can buy for home. The other type comes with noodles that are the straight type, kind of like spaghetti. But I just prefer this curly type because it's chewier than the spaghetti type. And I like my ramen to be a little bit chewier, so I've purchased this type. So to boiling water, I'm adding the Ichiran ramen, and it cooks pretty much the same way as you would with normal instant noodles. I've left it for about a minute and a half, and then I'm starting to loosen the noodles now to allow the water to cook in between each of the strands. And I've set the cooking time to a total of 2.5 minutes. The standard, according to the package, is 3 minutes, and depending on your preference in terms of how firm and chewy you like the noodles, you can add or subtract from the standard cooking time. I usually set it to a little bit below the standard time because it does take time for me to scoop all the noodles out of the bowl afterwards, so I don't like overly soggy or soft noodles. And as that's cooking, I'm going to prepare some of the condiments, including some chopped green onions, and then I'm going to make boiled eggs, perfect boiled eggs I should say, in my Instant Pot as well. Okay, so timer's up. I'm going to now add in the contents of the soup packet. And you can see it's this thick sauce concentrate, in addition to the oil content that you can definitely see in there. And to be honest, this soup packet is where the magic is. This is what you're paying the premium price for. It contains their secret recipe for their famous soup base. Okay, so we've got to move quickly here to mix it in, and then I'm going to take out all the ramen so that it doesn't overcook. I've left some of the soup behind, and we're going to use it to cook the other ingredients for the ramen, including this wood ear fungus as well as enoki mushrooms. And all you have to do is boil them for a couple of minutes to heat through. These ingredients are great for absorbing the flavors of the soup that they're cooked in. So the advantage is that these ingredients don't add an additional flavor, but they take up the original flavor of the ramen, allowing you to enjoy it to its fullest. This is what the ramen looks like after being cooked. And I'm going to add the other ingredients, including the green onions, the enoki mushrooms, the wood ear fungus, and a little bit of seaweed. And in the center there, I've sprinkled some of the included chili flakes. And of course, your ramen is not complete without a soft-boiled egg. and I have a recipe to cook these to perfection using the Instant Pot. Next, we're going to make the $1 version of this ramen from Nissin. So the instructions ask for you to empty the packets of the seasoning into a bowl first. So this is the dry seasoning mix as well as the seasoning sauce. The sauce is a thick red paste like this. I did put in the full package of each, but it ended up very salty, so I recommend putting in maybe half or maybe 2/3 of the package first and then adjusting as required. So now I'm going to cook the ramen in 500 milliliters of water for 3 minutes. And when that boils, I'm going to add the ramen as well as the boiling water into my serving bowl like this. And I'm going to mix it up to get the flavors throughout the ramen. And I've also added a little bit of enoki mushrooms here as well, as you can see. And now it's ready to serve. I'm going to add a little bit of my own personal chili flakes in the center so that it looks similar to the Ichiran version. And you can see them side by side. They are similar but not the same. You can definitely tell a difference between the two. So here I have the Ichiran version. Let's do a taste test of this one. Even though it's been sitting for a couple of minutes while I was cooking the second ramen, the noodles are still very glossy and still very chewy. They're not mushy at all. So that was impressive. And the magic really is in the broth. The broth is virtually identical to what you would get at the restaurant. And so it's definitely worth the $12, I would say. It's a good substitute if you don't live near a ramen restaurant or an Ichiran restaurant. You don't really need the chili flakes, in my opinion. It doesn't really add anything because the flavor of the broth itself is already so strong. So there is barely any difference before or after adding the chili powder. The other comment I wanted to make is that even though it looks like a small packet of noodles and the bowl doesn't look very big, it's actually a very substantial serving. And I think the main reason for that is because the broth is so rich. You can see the high fat content in the broth here. It's so rich that it really fills you up. Now, I don't drink the broth. I only eat the noodles and the ingredients, but I still felt very full afterwards. Now let's taste test this other ramen, the Nissin brand, which is only $1 each. So it's a fraction of the price. You can see clearly that the noodles are different. It's a little bit thinner and not as glossy, and the color is also slightly different as well. Despite that, it still has a good chewy texture. The broth is very different from the Ichiran version, and that's where the main difference is, I should say. There is less depth and flavor and richness, but it has more just saltiness, and I think that has to do with the miso base as well. Doesn't mean it's not good. It still has its own merit, and I would say it's a great value for $1 and a great choice if you are simply looking for a good tasting instant noodle as opposed to a ramen substitute. Thanks for watching, and subscribe to see my next video where I show you my other Japanese items in my pantry. Bye!